I'm David Lynn, and I'm the owner here at Comrade Brewery Company. So the name of Comrade comes from the camaraderie in the brewing industry. Unlike a lot of other industries, it's really weird to see, I guess, competitive breweries that are, helping each other out, doing collaboration brews. It's something that you really don't see anywhere else. And with camaraderie, too many syllables, two different spellings, so we just shortened it to Comrade. I ended up joining the homebrew club in town. I was 19, and I tried my first pale ale. I tasted it, and I had no idea that beer could even taste like that, and immediately I was hooked. I got into the brewing industry back in 2005. I was brewing at a 15-barrel brew pub in town, the local brew pub in town where I went to undergrad. Ended up just loving it, and when I graduated, I went into the corporate world. Did that for a couple years and thought that, man, this is really not for me. Just really thinking about all the fun times I had back in the brew house during undergrad. Ended up getting another job working for Grand Teton Brewing Company, working along the Front Range doing events, and also working with their distributor here in the Denver area. 2 more years of that, I finally left my corporate gig and I got hired on at Dry Dock. While I was at Dry Dock, also just was reminded again on how great of an industry that this was, and I knew at that point that this was the only thing that I could do with my life. Went to Maryland to get my MBA, then came back about 20 months later. So I think it's important whenever you're opening up your own business, it's to figure out what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. I am now no longer brewing. I handle the day-to-day operations, social media, accounting, writing checks, working with vendors, getting the tasting room up to spec. I got a couple years of brewing experience, but Mark says over 14. So he's a more talented brewer than I ever will be, and might as well let people who are more talented than you do what they do best, and I'll do what I do best. So I'd say the personality for Comrade Brewing Company is we'd like to brew beers that we like to drink. We kind of want to become a brewer's brewery. We're focusing predominantly on 4 things here. The beers are bright, they're clean, they're consistent, and they're drinkable. And I think that's 4 areas that a lot of the new breweries aren't focusing on. So right out of the gate, less than 6 months after we opened, we won our silver medal for our Fresh Hop Superpower IPA, which is the fresh hop version of our flagship Superpower IPA. It was in the fresh or wet hop ale category. This was a medal that Mark's actually won bronze for last year at the Great American Beer Festival, and this year we took home silver. In fact, the gold medal winning brewery is where Mark's used to brew at. This is his now 10th medal in the last 3 years. It's exciting to be able to keep up that consistency, even though the water chemistry has changed, different location, different altitude, and different equipment. So with over, I think maybe 200, maybe getting up to 250 plus licensed breweries in Colorado, it's hard to distinguish yourselves. For us at Comrade, we have done a few things that make us a little bit different. Our tasting room holds 174, so that's probably the 2nd largest tasting room for a new brewery, possibly in the state. We want to make the tasting room a destination. We have the seating capacity available. We do have plans to add in some more tanks and possibly triple our capacity, our production capacity. And we want to do draft accounts around town in Denver Metro and maybe a little bit further. But other than that, we have a set number of barrels in mind to make sure that we're not in it to play the numbers game. We're also not in it to kill ourselves, and to make sure that we can deliver a good and consistent product all the time. And if tasting room demands exceed what we can produce, we're just going to have to cut back on draft accounts to make sure that the tasting room here is fully stocked. Another thing that we have a lot of pride in, all our equipment comes from a company called JV Northwest. They're in Canby, Oregon. It's 100% made in the USA. Marks and I, we toured the floor. My first system that I brewed on was on a 1994 JV Northwest 15 barrel back in 2005. So they make fantastic products, and all our equipment, our entire brew house, every single tank, every single serving tank, fermenter, grist case, brew house, it's all made in the USA. And that's something that you won't see in over 97% of other new breweries open up in Colorado. Say advantages for being a small brewery. Staff is still small. Still have direct contact with the customer. I still go out to my draft accounts and talk with the general managers and the beer buyers. Whenever you get to making tens of thousands of barrels, it becomes a lot tougher. You have your own sales guys. You may just be going to Beer Fest, and you're more of the face of the company more than anything else, and not really in the day-to-day operations. So we still kind of have that personal touch, being so small as we are. So the people that we have here, myself, having managed food service operations for 4 years, 2 years of professional brewing, and then another 2 of distributor relations and marketing, combined with my brewmaster's experience of 14 plus years of brewing. He won 5 medals last year at the Great American Beer Festival, including 2013 Very Small Brewing Company and Brewmaster of the Year. So we have, just between Marks and myself, we have over 20 years of professional craft brewing experience. And that's also something that you don't see very often when it comes to new breweries. So I love all my employees. I weeded out a lot of candidates and ended up with people who have a lot of passion for craft beer.